Hi, everybody. Tom Van Hoy with this edition of the Pitt State Indoor Track and Field Insider Show with head coach Russ Jewett. Given the weather, right, you know it's indoor season. Pitt State athletes competing at both Central Missouri and Warrensburg and University of Nebraska in Lincoln last weekend. So how does Pitt State decide where to send their track athletes? Here's Russ Jewett.
Well, sometimes it's decided for you. We want to send our top-level athletes, those who might have a chance at competing at the national level for us, we want to send them to competitions occasionally that really prepare them specifically for that experience. And the Husker Invite this year up at Nebraska, they have entry standards. You don't get into that meet unless you jump a certain height or run a certain time. So that was kind of decided for us. But oftentimes, we'll split the squad. We really want to have these athletes compete at a level that really challenges them, but at which they can compete and not just get left in the dust, so to speak. And sometimes we'll split the squad for that reason.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you specifically, and I think you answered this question, looking for national qualifying times or heights and distances. I mean, you're about halfway through, and you need to get to a certain level to have that opportunity when you go to national.
Absolutely, and that's the other good point. We have to sort of chase these marks. We qualify to our national championships with individuals. Those individuals have to meet a performance standard, and in some events, it's easier to reach a good performance standard without a lot of great competition around you. But for instance, in the longer distances or even the middle distances, pretty important to have some folks that can beat you and help pull you through a fast performance or push you through a fast performance. And so we oftentimes will take those kind of athletes somewhere where the race is there, where the competition is there.
It's also pretty interesting because when you look at some of the results, some of the top performances are by, you still call it running unattached. I mean, you have Division I, Division II athletes and some others that are all competing in the same race or in the same event.
Yeah, kind of a cool thing with our sport, being an individual and a team sport, you do oftentimes see graduated student athletes, sort of sub-Olympic level athletes, and sometimes even Olympic level athletes that get to get on the track at the same time as your athletes, and that's a cool experience for those people.
Yeah, if you have some athletes, and this just in, if people don't know, Jessica Macy and Adam Volker are pretty good for you in the 3,000 meters, right?
That's right, yeah.
to that win races, and in most cases running up front, is it good for them to maybe see somebody that is as good or better than they are to push themselves as well?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I think if all you do is win races, you're not going to be as good as you can be. That's it sounds oxymoronic maybe, but I think that's true. And again, to race your absolute fastest, I think having someone pull you through a pace. Well, that's why when you see world record performances, you see a rabbit in the race to help pace early at least, and having some help psychologically and physically in terms of drafting and those kinds of things is beneficial.
You know, the amazing thing about that, when you mentioned rabbits, and if people know what that is in track and field, somebody goes out and tries to set a certain pace. It's amazing when the rabbit steps off the track, the person that's trying to set the pace, you know, they're probably exhausted, and these guys are right behind them and still have some to go.
Yeah, that shows you that there are different levels of ability. You know, our kids are racing pretty well, but then if you look at the Division I level, you know, they're quite a bit faster, and then if you compare those to the Olympic level, well, even faster yet. So, yeah, there are levels for sure.
Tom Van Hoy with Russ Jewett, Pitt State head coach, men and women's indoor and outdoor track and field, talking about, well, let's talk about some of your athletes and how they did over the weekend. Some went to Central Missouri and some went to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. We did mention Jessica Macy and Adam Volkert. We'll start with those performers for you, and they were very good.
They really were. You don't have too many opportunities to run a fast time in the longer distances. It's not something you can do weekend after weekend and still get better. You kind of get worn down if you do that. So you have to kind of be ready when the moment is there. And certainly those two athletes capitalized on an opportunity, put themselves in a position in the 3,000 meters with that performance up at Nebraska to maybe get them into nationals. They're sort of, as we say, on the bubble based on what's happened in the past, but at least they've given themselves an opportunity to qualify to nationals.
Second fastest time school history for Jessica Macy. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. You know, the first fastest was an outstanding young lady that I have fond memories of coaching in my younger coaching career, Christy Allen. So she's in very good company, getting close to that kind of time. You know, it's 9:50. You know, that's the equivalent of about a 10:27 or so 2-mile race, which a lot of high school boys can't run that fast right now.
Hey, one of the things that I saw, too, when I was reading about that was it said that you take that time, and same thing for Adam Volkert, and it's converted to another time.
Yeah.
National qualifying standards. How does that work?
Well, at risk of confusing myself here, there is a standard to qualify to nationals. It's a time. But there are different kinds of tracks indoors, like we spoke about last time. There's a flat 200 meters. There's a banked 200 meter. The banked 200 meter track is a little easier to run a faster time on. A flat 300 meter track is a little easier than a 200 meter track flat to run a faster time on. So a committee came up with some indexes or indices that sort of even things out. So if you run on a banked 200 meter track and you use a qualifying time for a flat 200 meter track like we do this year, you have to add time to your banked 200 meter track time, and I think it's about 6 seconds. So the idea is you should be able to run about 6 seconds faster on a banked 300 meter track for 3,000 meters than you do on a flat 200 meter track.
Hey, go back to Christy Allen a moment ago. You mentioned, and you've done this for a while, a long time, and I guess the outside looking in, you think as time progresses and technology and everything else and nutrition and so forth, that the times or the heights might get higher and might get faster and the lower numbers and so forth. Has that made a difference over the years, or are the numbers pretty much what they've been?
Well, there are trade-offs there. I think there were probably a more really diligent distance runners maybe coming out in those days, and I don't know that in distance racing that the training has changed any that much in terms of what we know works. So maybe in that event, unlike like maybe the pole vault has progressed quite a bit for technology reasons or maybe coaching technique reasons, but in the distance races, I don't think you see, at least at our level, a lot of huge differences in general. Now, in Division II, I guess you would say that some more competitive teams have come into Division II, maybe. But I just think Christy Allen was special, as Jessica Macy is too. But I think when you get a girl as good as Jessica Macy and still not breaking a school record with that 950, it shows you, I think, how good Christy was. Has your approach as a coach over the years changed? Oh yes, somewhat. We were probably a little higher mileage in terms of distance coaching back in Christie's day, and we aren't now, primarily because we get more injuries when we try that, and I'm not sure what the difference there is. If it's the youth aren't as sturdy as they used to be, or if I'm just imagining that maybe, but maybe more in how I handle things psychologically, maybe with any athlete, whatever the event might be. You have to adapt or die. I don't know who said that, but it's true. And if I were the same coach I was 20, 25 years ago, we wouldn't be as successful. Tom Van Hoy, along with Russ Jewett, Pitt State track and field coach, indoor and outdoor as well. How about some other men and women that performed well for you over the weekend? Well, Jeff Piepenbrink continues to be consistent at a very high level. He was up at Nebraska, jumped 17 feet again, and really Coach Rutledge had a strategy of trying to win the meet up there. He might have jumped a little bit higher, but he skipped the bar because he was behind on misses and wanted to win, not just jump high. So admirable. Garrett Apier's coming around. He had a provisional qualifying mark in the shot put at Central Missouri. Proud of him. Cassie Caswell, another thrower that had a provisional qualifying mark. So those folks are coming around at the right time for us and making improvements. How about the triple jump, Marquise Cushion, 48 and a half inches? Is that pretty good? Very consistent, yeah. He had a PR the week before. And sometimes you can't just keep getting better every week necessarily. The training kind of catches up to you a little bit, and I'd say that's the case with Marquise, but he's doing a great job. We're hopeful that he'll make it into nationals. He may need to jump just a little farther to get in, but obviously he did very well at National Outdoor Championships last year. He was second place, so we look at him as someone with nationals experience and need to get him into the competition, that's for sure. So how'd they ever come up? Somebody goofing around in the backyard come up with a triple jump? Or yeah, a long time ago. In fact, I was just looking at a 1936 Olympic Games program, and they called it the hop, step, and jump. I have no idea I don't remember. I might have learned at one time what the genesis of that event was, but I can't remember it now. How about the steeplechase? Steeplechase is it needs to be an indoor event, I think. Don't you think?
Yeah,
get a little,
I do too.
I don't know, kiddie pool or something, and get a hurdle. And it's a great event too. It's like cross country on the track.
Now, is it wrong to call it the broad jump anymore?
You know, when I was in high school, half the time you'd hear it called that, but
yeah,
long since been that's a retired term. It's definitely long jump now.
Well, I tell you, the triple jump though, that's an amazing event to me because you mean I don't know how it just doesn't shake your entire body when you're going down and you hit and then you have to keep that momentum going.
Well, it is kind of brutal. I mean, you see some injuries in there. I saw a knee blown out at Missouri Southern this year for a young man that landed a little funny. And it's a great combination of speed, power, and agility. It's a great test.
From the strength standpoint, and you mentioned your shot putters on the men's side, you feel pretty good about that particular group?
Absolutely. Considering, and we don't make excuses, but it has been a little bit tough to train with the snow on the ground. We don't have an indoor place to throw. So they've just shifted focus and no excuses, and they're working harder on strength and footwork inside and things like that. So really pretty darn good stuff that Coach Mantooth is producing there considering our situation, our circumstances.
Do you find that there are certain events, and maybe shot put might be one, I don't know about pole vault, that they're consistent distances, times inside versus outside?
Yeah, you know, you'll see some events that you actually do see higher jumps or longer throws inside. It's just you have a consistent environment. And I think you see that in the high jump and sometimes in the shot put, you know, and as opposed to like the 400 or the longer races, you know, it's just harder to run around tight turns or what have you. But now in the horizontal jumps typically, and even the pole vault, you'll see better performances outdoors because a wind that is pushing you will help your performance. You don't have that indoor wind. But yeah, they're definitely two different sports. A lot of people think you have the same sport twice, but it's a different animal indoors.
All right, tell me about the distance medley and actually what that entails.
The distance medley really should be called a middle distance medley, I think. You start off with the 1,200 meters, which would be 3 laps on an outdoor track, and 6 laps on most indoor tracks. The 400 meters is next, followed by the 800 meters, and then the mile, or the 1,600 meters, is your anchor. So it's a medley of distances from the quarter up to the mile.
And you guys are pretty good at Central, weren't they?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. We that wasn't a real competitive DMR, distance medley relay. We're going to try and run a little better one this weekend. And then, of course, the conference meet is where it really counts. And we've won a couple of those over the years, and our guys have some pride in that event.
So how do they come up with those distances and in that order?
It used to be a different order. Back in the NAIA days, it led off with the 800 to the 400. But I think you want to spread it out a little more before that first handoff, so we started flipping it to the 1,200 some 15 or 20 years ago. And again, I don't really know the genesis of it. It's been around forever. Hasn't been a championship event forever, though. Probably 10 or 12 years ago, we added it to the MIAA, our conference championship. But it's been an outdoor relay for a long, long time. You know, Texas relays, Kansas relays, Drake relays, Penn relays. Just caught on.
Hold on a second here. I'll Google Wikipedia, and everything's true on Wikipedia.
There you
go. Hey, all right. How about this week? Where are you headed?
We are splitting the squad a little bit. Most of our kids will go down to OU. They're not the host. Oklahoma Baptist is hosting at the University of Oklahoma for a really big competition, mostly Division II and NAIA schools. I'm taking a few distance runners up to Grand Valley State. They have a nice facility, a 300-meter indoor track, and some very good competition for distance runners. That's where we're going to try and qualify in the 5,000 for Jessica Macy and Hannah DeVries, and then Adam's going to try and get a little faster time in the 3,000, so he has a better chance of qualifying to nationals.
So you driving a station wagon or something this weekend?
No, old Coach Syndrome would have driven a station wagon. We're taking a nice shiny white van.
You feel pretty good about where your team is, where your individuals are right now? Do you think you have a pretty good opportunity to get some kids that qualify for national? I
feel pretty good. This is a time of year when you're still working pretty hard, and you'll have an injury here or there that kind of gets you down and sets you back, and we've had that. That's no fun, but I think overall our men's and women's teams are focused and working through this tough part of the season and have the conference championship in mind, but not obsessing about it. And then, of course, we do have the individuals that we need to get marks to get them in the nationals, and I think we're making progress there.
That's Pitt State head track and field coach Russ Jewett on this edition of the Pitt State Indoor Track and Field Insider Show. At Oklahoma and Norman this Saturday, Then back to Warrensburg and Lincoln, Nebraska for some gorilla athletes the 21st. Before the MIAA Indoor Championships this year, Missouri Southern in Joplin starting on February 28th. Then the Division II National Championships in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Pitt State to host the National Championships in 2016 and 2018 in the new Event Center. I'm Tom Van Hoy. Tom Van Hoy. Tom Van